Welcome back. Joining us to talk about Nigeria's fiscal future from January 2026. Two very bright minds. Paul Alaje joining us from our Abuja studios is the chief economist at SBM Professionals, as well as Yomi Olugbenro is the West Africa tax leader at Deloitte. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program. I appreciate it. Let me start with you, Ms. Alaje. Finally, done and dusted, just about 2 years. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele and his team have been able to deliver a new fiscal regime. As far as our fiscal future is concerned, the tax being at the vanguard of this. What's your first initial impression, as quick as possible?
Well, first, I must say it's a good job, well done. It has been a very long coming. We've had debates. I remember that I've participated in town hall meeting, one that I had in Abuja, where most Nigerians were allowed to put in their opinion. And at the end of the day, we now have an act. When I say an act, we have 4 acts that have been signed into law. The good news is that some of the things we advocated for were fully reflected in these new acts. I recall that for the 4, the important thing is how will people perceive this? Those who are, if I can just speak to specifics, the extremely poor has been exempted from taxes, talking about those who are working, those who are earning less than 800,000 naira a year, they've been exempted. That's under payee system. Under those who are under personal income tax, they've also, according to the chairman, those who are earning less than household, earning less than 250,000, would also be exempted. We have also noticed that small businesses, which used to be 25 million naira, have now been exempted from taxes, which is good. Middle class have some level of relief. The extremely rich, we now need to pay more. These, for me, are some of the highlights that I think are very, very impressive about this new tax bill. The most important is outdating. We've eventually decided to outdate some of the draconian laws, some of the colonial laws, which have been in our tax book for a long time. Apart from that, the issue that I have concern about is the issue of raising VAT for 2025 to about 12.5%. Eventually, that did not happen, according to what was passed at the National Assembly. 7.5% was said to be retained. And the reason for that is simple. Tendency to increase inflation. Already we have inflationary concern at over 23%. Leaving it at 7.5% is just right. It's also good that this tax is not starting immediately because of concerns of readiness, especially at the subnational level, knowing fully well that the old FIRS, which is now the Nigeria Revenue Service, we need time to work with respective subnational as to how to make this happen. And you know that these new tax bills recognize the place of states and local governments and the impact they will be playing in our fiscal life, especially as it has to do with taxes.
Mr. Olugbenro, you're the taxman here as well. Do you think when you look at what has been presented as now laws, which is quite a volume when you look at all of this, this will incentivize businesses, because I listened to Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. We had a conversation with him earlier this morning and yesterday. He says it's people-centric, efficiency-driven, and growth-focused. What do you see?
No, I agree totally with that insight from Taiwo. And if you follow the debate, what you realize is that every area of complaint that taxpayers and business people have had as touching the regulatory framework for our law have been touched. Taxpayers have always complained about the fragmented taxes. We have tax laws in different legislations, in different amendments, in different regulations, and somehow it's become a lot difficult to know exactly what you need to pay at what point to who and all of that. And so with what we've had now from a business perspective, for me, even beyond whether we're talking about the rate or some of the specificity, certainty and the consolidation and the harmonization is a huge relief to businesses. So it means you can go to Just the Nigerian Tax Act, for example, and everything that you need to know about what your obligations are as a taxpayer. You don't know how important that is, to a businessman, to an investor, whether local or, international. So all of the elimination of the multiplicity of agencies that we've now had, consolidated in Nigerian Revenue Services is a huge relief, So now the taxpayer knows the authority, to remit taxes to, and all of their issues can be dealt with. And so the simplification, the opportunity to leverage technology, the certainty of rules and provision, and the fact that these laws are now, in tandem with modern business and economic reality is a huge relief. And on top of that, you then have all of the transformative provisions that we have in the law. Archaic rules and provisions have been removed. During the course of the debate, there was a particular time that the eyes of a particular taxpayer almost practically popped up when we said, look, in this new bill that is coming, the Revenue Authority, for example, won't be asking you whether an expense you have incurred for your business is reasonable or not. But that used to be part of the provision. Expense not only need to have been incurred wholly, and exclusively for the business, you will need to justify to the Revenue Authority that it's reasonable for you to incur that expense. That's how way back, some of those provisions were. But with these new laws now, we've now brought our provisions into modern, business realities, and it's a whole relief for taxpayers. So for me, it's excitement, whether as a taxpayer or as a consultant or general public at large.
Mr. Alaje, let me come to some specifics that I would like you to give interpretation to. So my producer is going to run through them. As much as there are incentives, people are not going to pay tax at a certain bracket and all of that, we want to also show them the consequence of bad behavior. So section 98, 99, 100, and 101. If my producer can put it up, so you can see there that a person who refuses to grant access to the authority to deploy that technology, this is fiscalization now, after 30 days. If you refuse, an administrative penalty of 1 million will be sent to you, and you can see the subsequent payment. If we go to 99, gentlemen, both of you will speak to this. A taxable person that fails to process a taxable supply through fiscalization system that has been installed, I want to add that line, an administrative penalty of 200,000 plus 100% of the tax due and an interest of 2% above Central Bank of Nigeria monetary policy per annum. 100, let's go to 100. This is it. A person who has an obligation to collect, deduct, or withhold tax under the relevant tax laws and fails to collect, deduct, or withhold the tax due is liable to administrative penalty of 40% of the amount not deducted. The last one, and then I would like your interpretation. A person who is required to make attribution, that's where the thing happened, but fails to do so, or having done so, fails to notify the relevant agency, is liable to pay an administrative penalty of 1 million. So there's a lot of 1 million flying around, Mr. Alaje. Give us an interpretation of this consequence for bad behavior, because now it's not a question of the taxman coming to say, you're not paying your tax, or you start arguing. They will just show you, this is how much that came through you. So explain, Mr. Alaje.
Okay, so first of all, at the center of this tax bill, this particular one we are discussing is technology. So I expect that education, sufficient education, we start seeing sufficient education with the 6-month window we have before 1st of January 2026. And I think that is quite strategic for us to start providing such education. What some of this is saying is that if you want to avoid taxes, it will come at a cost. It will come with severe penalties. It will come with consequences, or like before that, the consequences and penalties are not known. This is now clear as to what the cost of avoidance will be, and the cost of trying to dodge taxes, which of course is illegal, what it will be, and everyone is allowed, especially those who are recognized by the law, should allow tax officials to make necessary, plugins into the system that can help them check what they are doing in terms of their revenue, so that what belongs to government or what they should pay as taxes could be deducted. So here is it. I think that, of course, the bill was just signed into law yesterday. In the coming months, say July, August, sufficient education, the process with which we went through when we were having this bill passed to law. We should start having robust conversation about implementation. And I can also tell you that this should not just be at the center. We should domesticate this to various states, various local governments, so that people understand what we are starting, the new tax environment that we are starting. That said, it's also important to emphasize the fact that a number of small businesses are exempted, because with the provision you've read, those who have turnover less than 50 million naira to some extent have relief based on this new tax act. So we're talking of higher turnover, we're talking of much bigger businesses, and so on and so forth. So what government is saying, or what this tax bill is saying, is if you want government to be transparent, you also need to come in clean slate, and you have to be even more transparent, so that we can have a better environment, fiscal environment as a nation.
Mr. Lukman, so what size of business would require this fiscalization? Because, for instance, like what Mr. Alaji has said, how the government has to know that you're not lying, that your business is less than 50 million naira per annum, or however it is gauging that. So which businesses will be getting knocks on their doors soon as to this fiscalization, so that they will know what to expect, so that they don't fall into this trap, as Mr. Alaji has explained?
Well, so Jeffrey, so ultimately it will be all businesses that are liable to pay taxes. So the small businesses, so the fiscalization you're referring to is touching on, the subject of e-invoicing and the deployment of technology, which allows the Revenue Authority to have visibility and quick access to revenue that is accruable to the government. So the whole essence of this change in law is that, in as much as government had provided relief and exemption to those who shouldn't be paying, now those who need to pay need to be transparent and accountable. And that's why you realize that the penalty for non-compliance has been raised. You just read out the one relating to fiscalization or attribution that you failed to do, but it actually cuts across every compliance obligation. If you're supposed to make payments and you don't pay, we're no longer in the era of 10,000 naira per month or 5,000 naira in the first month of failure and 200 subsequently. Now it's in millions. So it's really going to be expensive for anyone to default on their obligation. But the rules are going to be clearer. So if you are defaulting, it won't be because you don't know what your obligations are or the rules are not clear. It will be because you want to be deliberately non-compliant. And that's why the penalty has to be raised. And that's part of fairness. It's fairness to other taxpayers that are complying, because if you and I are running business and the other businessman is transparent, is accountable, is compliant, and then you are not, you are having an unfair advantage, and government is not able to get the revenue that is required. So, but with respect to the fiscalization and e-invoicing specifically, it's actually already on from 1st of July on Tuesday, for example. The Revenue Authority is already opening it up to large taxpayers, by revenue, because they want to do this in phases. But at this particular point, it is a lot more of encouraging adoption, assisting, and making sure that the Revenue Authority provide the assistance, and then they will scale that down up until everyone that's supposed to be VAT agent, everyone that's supposed to be accountable to government from a VAT perspective, everyone will have to deploy technology, and everyone will have to ultimately fiscalize, or ensure that the invoicing technology, and there are a large spectrum of it, from those who will have their SAP, completely interlinked, with FRS system, to those who will only be able to have Excel spreadsheet of their number, and then they will go and upload it on a dedicated portal by FRS. So it's going to be a large spectrum of possibilities that is going to make it easy for everyone to be able to comply. But after all of that, facilities and infrastructures have been made available. Sensitization has been done. education have been provided and a taxpayer fails to do the right thing in the new era, is really going to be expensive and costly for anyone not to do the right thing. And that's the only way we can have the balance. Because you can't exclude a significant percentage of individuals from paying taxes because they are vulnerable, or a significant percentage of businesses exempted from taxes because they are micro and small businesses. And then the top 5%, the top 1% who really have the capacity to pay, that's where the government is really expecting that with the marginal increase in the rates and in the expectation that compliance will be deepened, that's really where the book can be balanced. And that's why those penalties have to be that significant.
Mr. Alaje, let me bring to, as we begin to wind down, you help me answer the political question. That what literally caused this entire set of bills, its life, the VAT formula, sharing formula. So my producer is going to put it up for us to see. This is the sharing formula now. That was the old one. You can see equality 50, 30 population, 20 derivation. They just alternated the position for derivation and population. But this looks like the leadership of President Bola Tinubu wanted some sort of a pseudo-fiscal federalism. Do you think that not succeeding with the proposal of the committee to say derivation should be 60% so that states will step up, we have missed an opportunity, or this political resolution is just what it is? As we close.
Well, I think the current state is very good. Derivation at 30%. It's a good way to start because if you push it straight away to 60%, some of the states, and I dare say 30 of our states are not prepared. Apart from Lagos, Port Harcourt, and the FCT, and a few other states that might be somewhere in the middle, most of the states will be at a disadvantage. It does not mean that 60% formula in itself is wrong. But we need to look at the environment that we are making this policy for. And that is why our recommendation to the National Assembly is that start with 30%. Review it after 2 or 3 years. As the state come up, because we expect that for the entire system, fiscal system we are changing to work well, we need education more at the subnational and at local level. As revenue improves, and we can trace it with numbers. Remember that during the town hall meetings, it was mentioned that states will even earn more money. So from 2026, 2027, we can test if this revenue will truly increase. As it increases, as we have jacked up derivation by 10% from 20 to 30, we can say, look at the output of a 10% increase. Your revenues have increased by 5, 10, 15%. So it's time for us to increase this derivation by another 10%, because we have a law that we have bills, we have turned to law that have combined several pieces of bills and acts here and there that were not really particularly organized. But now that we have this, we can then say it's important for us to review. I don't think we've lost anything. I think if we have decided that we were going to go on with the 60%, as against what the governors were saying, as against what economists are saying, and some other persons are saying, it might actually have a political cost on the ruling party. And I'm particularly happy that government listened very carefully and that it's not all the time we have our way. What is important is voice of the people. And I don't see this as a sign of weakness or a disadvantage to this act in any way. I think at the end of the day, it's the people that wins. And it's always good to stay with the people.
Gentlemen, bright minds, thank you so much for coming on the program. We have to keep educating Nigeria as to their fiscal future, so that nobody is caught off guard, whether you are an individual, household, small business, big business, government, everybody. But I also see this as a reason for Nigerians to look at their subnationals and federal government and hold them strictly accountable. Because if you're coming for my money, I'll come for demands for good governance. Thank you, Paul Alaje, Chief Economist, SPM Professionals, Jamil Lugbenro, Tax Leader of Deloitte, West Africa. Gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, sirs.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.